Hi, it's Darren from SimNation. A bunch of you have asked me to do a video on draft day sports, college football in relation to ratings. By the way, you'll be able to use this same video for pro football. Um, Both of these, of course, titles from Wolverine Studios. I highly recommend taking a look at it. Ratings to me is a cornerstone of the game. If you don't understand it, you're not going to be very successful because this is what drives your game planning, your depth charts, and then just understanding what type of strategy you're going to use through the game. Ratings, of course, are things like strength, agility, but it's also things like work ethic and things like that. So I'm going to go through and kind of talk about them uh, real quick because I think that if you don't understand these, you're not going to be very successful at the game um, because you're not going to understand kind of the why you do certain things. So we'll probably start with strength. Strength is kind of the key attribute for making tackles, holding blocks, breaking blocks. Uh, it's very important in blocking. It's very important in run defense. It's very important for inside running and power running. But one of the things that a lot of people lose sight of is strength is also a key influencer around fumbles. If you have low strength, you're going to fumble the ball more often. If you have high strength, you're not going to fumble as much. And then conversely, on defense, if you have high strength, you're going to force fumbles more often. So a lot of people, a lot of times, will approach me and say, "Why am I fumbling the ball so much? I have a guy with great hands." Well, he has low strength. Um, Agility, to me, this is more east-west movement than speed, which is more north-south. So this is your ability to guard against short passing if you're a defender. It's your ability to put yourself in the best position to make a tackle. So it has a heavy influence on tackling because if you can't get to where you need to be quickly, uh, you're just not going to make the tackle. Agility also influences your ability to catch the ball and to pick it off. So I have a lot of people say, look, I have great hands. Why is this guy not catching the ball? It's, well, he has low agility. Agility will influence your ability to catch the ball. And conversely, defenders with great agility are often the ball hawks in the game. In terms of blocking, this is your ability to adjust to what's going on the field. So whether that is in the rushing game where you're trying to do things like counters or things like that, agility matters on an offensive line much more than speed, where speeds matter more on things like pulls. So to me, agility is like quickness, right? Speed is just flat out speed. Arm Arm is very important, but it's really important in terms of medium to long passing. So this is what will drive, along with accuracy, your completion rate. But if you don't have an arm, you're going to throw a lot of interceptions or make a lot of incompletions in the medium to long passing game. This is a very direct influencer of how well you do in the medium to long passing game. Like, for instance, if you look at HARGROVE, who's my starting quarterback, he's not going to make a lot of long passes. He doesn't have the arm for it, but he's got a good arm for a medium passing game, which means I'm going to do that. He doesn't have great accuracy, and we'll talk about that in a second. So it may be why I just stick with a medium passing game, which is what I've been doing with him. Uh, and that's been working pretty well. Intelligence is one of those traits that's one of the crucial ones for the game as a whole, along with endurance and skill. Um, Intelligence is your awareness on the field. So if you're a quarterback, it lets you know where to be. So reacting to the blitz, being able to see the blitz, being able to know when to throw ball, when not to throw the ball, avoiding interceptions. For ball carriers, it's our ability to find the holes. For wide receivers, it's the ability to find the holes in the defense. For defense, it's really the ability to react to plays and be able to be in the right position where they need to be. So if you're a defensive back and you're in pass coverage and it's an actual run play, it's our ability to break off that coverage and come back. For defensive line and linebackers, it's our ability to be able to see that it's not a pass play anymore, it's a run play, and then be able to react and make the tackle. Um, so intelligence does influence interceptions. So if you're wondering why some people may not be picking the ball off and they have low intelligence, that's a potential reason. The reason for that is they don't know where to be. So if they're stupid, they're not going to do that. Now, all these ratings, probably a quick footnote, all these ratings are relative. So quarterbacks above 80 is an important intelligence. For running backs, wide receivers, really anywhere from 65 and up is good intelligence. For linemen, above 70. For defensive linemen, really above maybe 60. Linebackers above 70. Defensive backs really above, I'd probably say 60. Kickers probably above 80. So you want to make sure you have intelligence. It's a key thing. And Frankie and I've talked about this in terms of quarterbacks specifically, is that higher intelligence quarterbacks run the RPO better. Higher intelligence quarterbacks have more success with completions. Now, you still got to have arm, you still got to have accuracy, but intelligence is really important. I would argue that with running backs, having good intelligence is very, very important because the best running backs, and I'll show you a running back here in a moment as an example, uh, have really good intelligence. Accuracy, this is more about short to medium passing. It's your ability to get the ball there. It does influence even on long passing, your ability to complete the ball as well as not throw interceptions. But accuracy is really important in the short to medium passing game. Tackling, this is about once you're where you're supposed to be, your ability to bring the person down. Speed is north-south. This is just how fast you get places. For offensive line, it's your ability to be able to pull or to be able to, on like pitches, get out to the outside and drive down the field. If somebody's slow, you probably don't want to do a lot of pitches and sweeps because they're not going to be able to get in front of the ball carrier fast enough. Hands, this directly correlates to catches and interceptions. It directly correlates to your ability to hold on to the ball. A lot of people forget that hands is important in blocking because it's about placement. So if you have linemen who have good hands, it will be a influencer or a differentiator in how good of a blocker they are. Pass blocking, run blocking are pretty straightforward. Endurance, a lot of people underscore endurance, and you probably shouldn't. I think this is one of the more important attributes in the game, like intelligence. The higher the endurance, the more likely they can stay on the field. So when I show you Ricky Merriman, who's a running back, he has an endurance of 90, which means as a running back, he can stay on the field pretty much the whole game. I don't really need to rotate him. Whereas if a guy has 40, you're going to have to rotate him because he's going to get tired really quick and he's going to start underperforming. Injuries, endurance is a direct correlation to injuries or lack thereof. Higher endurance, less injuries. Lower endurance, the more injuries. For a lot of you, you keep asking me about why is it that you drop off late in the game and your team really doesn't play as well. You might want to look at the people's endurance that you have on the field. I rotate a lot because I want to keep the performance drop low, but a lot of teams that don't rotate will find that later in the game they start losing. And the players start underperforming. They start throwing more interceptions. They start missing more tackles, missing more blocks. That's because of endurance. And then you have some of these other traits out there. And let me go to Earl Hargrove so I can explain this. So leadership, this is about how you make players better on the field. So if you have a guy who's a really good leader, he's going to keep the team morale high. He's going to make other players play better. He's going to shut people up when they're bitching. And he's really going to be fighting for that extra yard. Hargrove is not a great leader, so you want to make sure you probably have at least 2 to 3 good leaders on the field at any time. Work ethic, this is how well he's going to develop based on training. If you have a low work ethic, they're just not going to develop and they're not going to get better. Again, doesn't matter if they are really good to begin with, right? Competitiveness is like work ethic. This is how well they will do in training. But competitiveness also is how hard will they fight. So when you get into crunch time, when it's late and you're behind, competitiveness is one of those attributes that will directly correlate to how well does somebody do in that final minutes when things really matter. Team play, or a lot of people underscore this, but um, for me, a team player is someone who just plays to win. They don't give a shit about individual accolades. Uh, and they will improve their performance. Now, Hargrave's not a team player, but he plays pretty well. But he's not going to uplift people around him. Penalties, the next two, sportsmanship and disposition, really factor in the penalties. If he was an offensive lineman or a quarterback, I would really worry because he's going to get a lot of penalties because those are some really bad stats right there. But it's the really sportsmanship is the player's attitude towards other members of the team. They could drive morale. It's also going to get a lot of like roughing the passer or personal penalties. Disposition's the same thing. Does he influence the locker room in a good way or a bad way? Can also drive up penalties. How well a player will develop is also based on disposition. So a younger player who has a high disposition is likely going to develop much better than a player with a low. So Oral Hargrave is probably not going to really develop. Now, he's a gunslinger, so that helps him a little bit, but these stats are probably the stats he's going to have. He's not going to be much better. So I mentioned Ricky Merriman. So I'm going to give you two examples, one on offense, one on defense. Ricky Merriman is probably the best running back in SNCFL today. And he's a 1-star. So I bring that up for a reason because he shouldn't be that good. But one of the reasons why he's really good is he's got strength, so he can break tackles relatively easy. He's not going to fumble the ball a lot. He's got good agility, 70 to 80 is good, 90 is really great. So he's going to be able to make cuts. He can run counters, he can run pitches, he can run options because he's going to be able to make those cuts. He's got good intelligence. 60 for a running back is actually really good, which means he can see the field, see the holes, and go through the holes. His speed is off the chart. That's elite. Which means he can get to wherever he's going to go very fast. And once he gets past the line, he's gone. Hands, he's not going to cough it up. Endurance, I mentioned this earlier. He can play every down. He's not going to have a performance drop off. Work ethic, he's got both of those things, which means he's going to be really good. He's not going to draw a lot of penalties. He's got a really good disposition. So all of you are like, why are you showing me this? Well, this is what I would call a prototypical running back. This is the type of running back you want to have. And again, he's a 2-star, right? But when you look at his stats, what you can almost immediately see is he's averaging over 200 yards a game. He's getting better year over year, averaging almost 7 yards a carry, 13 touchdowns. He's had 40 last season, and he's not coughing the ball up. Now, you look at 7 and go, that's a lot. That's against 454 carries. So that's not a lot. That's actually a really good ratio. But one fumble in 117 carries already, so that's pretty good. If I were to show you Timothy Willis, who's got higher intelligence, he's roughly about the same, right? 8 yards a carry, one fumble. He's actually showing up really well. And again, he's not as fast as Merriman, so he can get caught, but he's more agile. His strength isn't as good. Now, on defense, I will show you a guy named Donald Uribe. I think his name's Donald. It's going to be embarrassing if it's not. So Uribe is a converted wide receiver. So when you're dealing with defensive backs and you're converting them, don't worry about skill. You do want to convert them before training camp so they get the skill bump. But skill in cornerbacks is not as important as I used to think it was. It is important in other positions, but with cornerbacks, someone with less skill doesn't really matter. You just got to be okay with them occasionally drawing penalties. The reason why I'm showing you Donald Uribe is, again, if you look at him, he's 59 is pretty good strength for a corner. He's got good agility. He's pretty smart. 54 to 60 is actually pretty decent. He's very fast. He's got good hands. Now, his endurance is not all that great, and that's caused him some issues already. But he's a former running back. But his work ethic means he's only going to get better. He's competitive, so in clutch time, he's going to make good decisions, and he's got good disposition and sportsmanship. Um, when you look at him, though, one of the things that I look at corners for is how good are they from a target to catch. So he's only been targeted 13 times. He's my shutdown corner, so a lot of people don't throw at him. But he's only given up 6 catches, so that's less than 50. He's already made 14 tackles. He's not missing a lot, but five of those so 5 of the 7 incompletions he has, he directly influenced that. So he picked off 2, he had 3 pass defenses. So that is a good dynamic versus you look at some of the other guys I have who have better agility, but maybe not better speed. This guy would be good in zone. These guys are good in coverage because they can go north-south a lot better, and they have the ability to pick the ball off. Even though their hands, like McElroy, actually can pick the ball off more because he has agility, which will help influence interceptions, even though he has only 32 hand. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the video, and if you have any questions, let me know, but I wanted to keep this short. I would say that understanding ratings is very important for you to actually be able to win at this game. So have a great day, and if there's a topic you want me to talk about, let me know. Thanks.